Hey y'all, and welcome to Politibrawl. My name is Brian, and Senator Kennedy does an absolutely fantastic job dealing with these tough questions from Jake Tapper, to the point where even Tapper had to tip his cap and go, Mr. Kennedy, you hit this right out of the park. Let's dive in.
Republican voters may start feeling a direct link from President Trump's economic policy, specifically the tariffs, to what we're seeing right now and what people are seeing with their 401ks. The stock market is plunging. Grocery prices remain high. There are fears of a recession, stoked at least in part by President Trump's refusal to rule out a recession. Where are you on this? Is your message still, this is early, trust the process? What do you think?
I don't see any indication of a recession. We created 151,000 jobs last month. The unemployment rate is steady. The yield curve is fine. Businesses are still showing profits. I think the reaction of the stock market was with respect to two things. Number one, the market has clearly been overvalued. The S&P was trading at about 21 times earnings. 10-year average is from 16 to 19. But I think the real reason that the market had such an ugly day, and it was ugly, was concern about President Trump's tariffs. And I'll be glad to talk about that, but I wouldn't trade the American economy for any other economy in the world right now. Not Germany, not France, certainly not China, not Canada, not the UK, not any other developed country. And I think if you talk to Jay Powell, he'd say the same thing because he testified to that effect before us in our banking committee.
I know you're a big fan of Elon Musk. He just went on a different channel. He was asked about DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency. Let me roll a little bit of that.
I mean, frankly, I can't believe I'm here doing this. It's kind of bizarre. But I kind of think that we've got this enormous federal budget deficit, and it's a $2 trillion deficit. It keeps growing. Our interest payments are higher than our Defense Department budget. That's I think was the real wake-up call for me. Really, I just don't want America to go bankrupt.
Are you confident that Musk is doing this for the reasons that President Trump says, purely to help this country, purely to reduce the deficit, and not in any way to help his American-based companies?
Yes. And I will tell you, his work for President Trump has cost him a lot of money. I think Mr. Musk is doing it because money is important to him, but other things are more important. I think he'd like to leave something behind besides styrofoam. I think that I am a supporter. He's done more in a few weeks than I've seen anybody else do in 8 years up here. I don't think anybody should be surprised. Trump said he was going to scrub the budget. He's scrubbing the budget. That needs to be done for two reasons. First, there's a moral principle. We shouldn't be wasting people's money. But number two, if we don't scrub this budget, we're never going to get prices down. In order to get prices down, we're going to have to reduce our federal spending. That'll lower interest rates and stimulate the economy less. We're going to have to deregulate the economy. Hadn't been talked about much, but it's a big part of reducing the cost of goods and services. And we're going to have to design a tax code that looks like somebody designed the damn thing on purpose. And that's what we're planning on doing with our reconciliation bill. If we do those three things, we'll get these high prices down.
And he's absolutely right. If we start doing these things, like actually caring about cutting the fat out of the federal government, cutting the waste, fraud, and abuse, particularly in areas like Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, where we know that things are not quite as they should seem, we definitely need to start taking some of that money back and reinvest that into our debt so we're not constantly having to print more money to figure out how to solve this massive problem. There's something else that Elon Musk brought up in that brief clip, is that our interest payments are now larger than our defense budget. It's even worse than that at this point. It's larger than our Medicare budget. It's the number 2 expenditure in our federal government. Our number 1, Social Security. Number 2, interest payments. And number 3, Medicare. Number 4, Medicaid. Number 5, our defense budget. That's how crazy things have gone in the past 20 years. Because in 2005, our defense budget was arguably bigger than Social Security and Medicare, almost combined. Okay, wait, no, I take it back. Each, not combined, but definitely each. That's no longer the case. As boomers, and let's be real, as more boomers are starting to retire, there's less people taking over their positions inside of the economy. Because remember, boomers might have had a little too much fun in the 60s, but they, ironically enough, didn't have enough kids. So that's why there's this huge deficit of both population and money into the system, and which has been the fundamental flaw of both Social Security and Medicare. If you wonder why European nations have gone so odd with their immigration policies, yeah, this is exactly why. They're trying to quite literally replace people that weren't born to begin with. But that's a longer topic for a longer day, because we're dealing with an American problem. And again, I've already sort of outlined what it is, and that is we can't afford to keep spending like this. Conservatives have been talking about this issue for 30 years. Ever since I've been born, I was born right before the 1994 grassroots revolution under Newt Gingrich that quite literally got Bill Clinton to force him to the center, and we had, lo and behold, a balanced budget. That's no longer the case anymore. And so we've got to figure out outside of the box ways. We got to figure out ways outside of the box to start tackling these lingering and growing issues. And that's why I'm a big fan of Elon Musk. And I think that's what Senator Kennedy is talking about too. And I have to agree with them, even though I haven't been in DC for 8 years. I was barely there for 2. Elon Musk has done more in a couple of weeks than most bureaucrats will do with a whole bunch of years. So Senator Kennedy's once again right there. But there's a bigger problem that we do need to be talking about, and that is what happened with the stock market the other day, which was sort of the first question out of Jake Tapper's mouth. And I'm actually going to give Jake Tapper some credit here. He's asking a very legitimate question. Why did the market respond in such a way? My personal belief is people got really, really jumpy, and the weaker investors didn't want to hold on to their money, and they jumped ship. As fast as they could, they tried to sell, and those sellers always tend to snowball outwards. But here's the weirdest thing, that most of those sellers came from the tech industry. That's what I don't understand. Silicon Valley put their full weight and support behind Donald Trump in this election because Donald Trump was essentially telling them in private meetings that I am not going to tell the CIA to look into your businesses and then tell you exactly what to do. Because that's exactly what happened under the Department of Justice. That's what happened with the FBI. That's what happened with the CIA from about 2019 up until Harris lost in 2024. Silicon Valley does not want to be chained by this nonsense. They also want to use artificial intelligence, of which Musk has been trying to break into that game as much as he can, and that's why Grok is seeing such a skyrocketing success rate compared to other AIs like ChatGPT. And so back to Wall Street and the economy problem. When let's see, widespread sell-off was mostly driven by anxiety about the impact of Trump's tariffs. In the interview that aired Sunday, Trump said the U.S. economy would see a period of transition and refused to rule out a recession. Now, that is not something you really want to hear if you're an investor. However, if you're a smart one that plays the long game, you usually hear that and go, that sounds like a time to buy, not a time to sell. So again, I think this is more of a whole bunch of jumpy investors reacting as fast as they can, and so they're trying to get out of Dodge while they think the going's good. And that's usually bad for the short term, and it's even worse for those investors in the long term. When asked on Fox News Sunday Morning Futures with Maria Bartiromo, there we go. Man, I am terrible at that part. If he was expecting a recession this year, Trump said, I hate to predict things like that. There is a big period of transition because what we're doing is very big. That's the unfortunate truth that even I don't like fully admitting, because saying that as a sitting president that there's a good chance that we might see a recession, that's going to rustle a few jimmies. And so naturally, the people who are more jumpy are going to jump ship. But at the same time, hearing a president being kind of frank and upfront with the American people, saying there's a good chance that the market's finally going to correct soon. That's refreshing to me. That those kind of words are something that I can put some trust in, even if that's going to hurt my pocketbook in the short term. That means I've got a president who's also taking a bigger picture approach, so he's not lying to the American people. He's telling investors in coded language that something big might be around the corner, so either buckle up or dial in. And either way, that's a president telling the American people to get ready for something. And I would rather that kind of rhetoric than the old milquetoast, everything is fine, nothing to see here, people, let's just move along. That's the kind of rhetoric that I at least can trust. And that's why I appreciate it coming from Trump. That's why I love having Musk on board. And then there's Senator Kennedy, who's trying to explain all of this. And even Jake Tapper has to admit at some point that, you know what? These are good answers, and this is the reason why I'm able to dial it back and not be so crazy, even though, of course, he's from CNN. Folks, my name is Brian. Hope you enjoyed that segment here on Politibrawl. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you on the next one, and until then, y'all have a good one.